judge. I'm not actually a judge, but judging. Do you judge people? Do I judge people? If you say no on the fact you don't judge people, you're lying, because everyone judges someone. That's how our brain works, because that's the way it learns to survive, by making these shortcuts. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. Why we judge people and how we can judge ourselves sometimes from that. And what we can do actually when we find ourselves judging other people. So starting with me, I've judged so many times growing up, and luckily I've never kind of been in a situation where I've really said something bad about someone and then it's come back on me. But I have had a couple of occasions where I've really thought a bad case about someone and it was completely opposite. So I remember being just 10 years old, and obviously only a kid then, and with my best friend in the school playground, and he or me sort of started a conversation. There's a new kid, and we said, that guy looks like a right loser. Not a very nice thing to say at all when you don't know the person, just basing them on appearance. As a 10-year-old, you sort of grow up and mature a bit. Not that 10-year-olds aren't, but I wasn't then. And then actually that guy we saw turned out to be one of my best friends through primary school and part of secondary school. And then there was another time where I remember at work when I had a new guy join the team. I think this a few years ago. And then I looked at the guy and thought, yeah, we're not going to get on at all. And me and the guy got on really, really well. Had a really good working relationship. Really nice guy to talk to. So that can show how your brain's wrong. But your brain often looks at someone and says, all right, I'm going to make a judgment. So depending on what clothes they're wearing, how they walk up. So that's why it's quite important to try and walk confidently and, dress to a good level in order to appear more confident and appeal to people, whilst also having that level of authenticity and realness about you. Because when you're going out and meeting new people, they're going to judge you, and then they're going to think, oh, this is a person who'd be quite good to bring on a business opportunity. Or if it's someone you're looking to date, they might think, oh, this person, seems what they're doing. So we all judge. That's just our brain doing it. And why does our brain do it? So our brain judges because it's a survival. It's got a survival mechanism, the limbic part of the brain, which is trying to help you stay safe. So if someone came up to you in the street and had a knife, you would probably judge them as not a very safe person, right? Well, quite rightly so. Although they might be going to cut a cake or something, but if they're coming up to you with a knife, you probably would run away, and that's your brain trying to survive. But when it starts seeing people it doesn't feel comfortable around and judging them, it doesn't kind of notice a difference between that and trying to survive for your life. It's just thinking, keeping you safe, keeping you in with the good tribe and people you're going to get on well with, just to keep you surviving. So a really, really good book I read on judging is The Judgement Detox by Gabby Bernstein. Lovely woman. And anyway, back to the book. And there's one point, so there's a few points from it that I picked up. And actually when we're judging others, we sometimes do the same for ourselves. So we can generalize situations. We can see someone and assume, they're not safe from, the clothes they might be wearing or something. And that sounds terrible, but that's our brain doing it. But we also do the same on ourselves. When we make a mistake, it can generalise and judge us that we're not very nice people. And when we're judging other people, we sometimes judge ourselves for judging others. And it gets really, really complicated. So the first step is to actually observe the judgments. And it's a lot like when I was talking about power of now the other day, observing your own life. So observing these judgments and actually just seeing yourself judging them, and not being annoyed with yourself, because that's what your brain does. So that's the first step, just observing the judgments you're making. And then it's that second step, it's that forgiveness, accepting that you're going to judge, accepting that your brain's going to do that. And because it's a survival mechanism and we can't help but judge, but bringing your awareness to it, that's the second step. Then the third step is looking at the facts, interpreting it, getting that curiosity a little bit more. understanding why you're judging someone or even judging yourself, understanding why your brain's thinking that. And then you can start asking yourself questions as, what's the real truth behind this? You don't know that person, or you've messed up in one thing. Does that mean you'll mess up in your whole life? Probably not. So then that's looking for facts and evidence for why you're making your judgments. And then the fourth step is really to keep doing it over and over again, that process. So observing and understanding it's, accepting yourself and the fact you're going to judge, and then looking at the facts over and over again, constantly. Now, you're going to judge, but it's make sure you don't vocalize those judgments because they're just in your head. Don't start bitching off at people, because that's where arguments, I've seen from experience, start. And luckily, I've always been quite wise in this area, not to try and bitch about another person. But that's when our brain starts making judgments, and then we start telling other people and it starts spreading. That's where the true problems come from. But just observing, and if you've done that in the past, obviously, it's done now, and we all make mistakes, and I've made many mistakes. But just observing that you're making that judgment and then working through it each time in order to get through that. So do that the next time you start judging a person. So my question for you today is, do you find yourself judging much? And when do you find yourself judging? Just leave a comment below. As we conclude today's talk, to sum up, we can't help but judge. That's our brain doing it naturally. But we can observe ourselves doing it and then work through a process and understand our own thoughts. We judge others and we judge ourselves. But we can just bring ourselves back and ask the facts. It's something we can't throw away, but something we can work through. And that concludes today's talk.